grand, glorious vanguard.
Knowledge born.
Yeah.
United front. What you want, what you want, what you want.
To the Knowledge Radio.
We in here. What you got? Dot.
Work hard as a slave to one day be your savior. The wave unwavering. This is a labor of love. Rise with a purpose every day. Invigorated. If we were on TV, we'd be 10 times syndicated. If we waited for validation, a paycheck, or accolades, we'd be starved, already lost, or ran away. But when your square solid and your circle too, you don't need a place for silence. The concept is conquered through media, not areas of people activity. A mix that don't lose ethnicity, tightness that don't lose elasticity. Explicitly, this isn't where we give the novice regard. Nah, this is where knowledge is born. Last time that I checked, I'm undefeated. Deliver edicts, can't resist when the gods build and manifest freedom. When lines get crossed, they may push a loss, cause they get handed a check. We kick your can and cancel your cancerous gestures. A prophet vision, precision, the prescription for the sickness is to inoculate your fate with the winning. Arrogant beginnings turn to humble endings. And US with KBA is a win-win. 1K, 1K.
Peace, peace, peace. Peace and Black Power family. Welcome to another episode of Knowledge Radio, place where knowledge is born. This is your host, Knowledge Allah. And we are here. We are here. And I don't know, hopefully y'all heard the intro. We were supposed to have a guest on, but due to a scheduling conflict on the brother's part, we have to reschedule. So we scheduled today to be on 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You know, it's Friday. I guess everybody wanted to come through, but I wanted to make sure that I came through for those who might have been waiting for the other broadcast. So I said, what could I do? What could I do real quick for this next show? 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Just let everybody holler, see what's going on. And if y'all got any questions, any questions, comments, whatever they face may be. And also show y'all this merchandise. We show y'all this garbage sweater. Shout out to Queen Afia Melanated Grapes. You can go to www.melanatedgrapes.com. And Marcus was like Garvey. Love right here. So, any questions, any comments? First of all, I don't even know if y'all can hear me. Can y'all hear me? If y'all can hear me, press 1. Somebody say something. Say, that the audio's good or whatever the case may be. We can keep going. So let me get in one. I see people coming in. Peace of Black Power to everybody coming in. I see Radical, peace of Black Power to you, K. Let me know if you can hear me. Let me know. All live on Facebook. We're live on my timeline. We're live in a couple of different places. The New Knowledge Radio page, the Knowledge Live page, Liberation Minded Media. Shout out to Liberation Minded Media. Run down what the name. Black Psychopathia. Dizzle, Black I Stand Radio. Brother. Hip Hop Media Vocal. Jobstown, My Skin Is My Sin. And shout out to the station manager, the plug, Wrong, hashtag right wrong. That's our media conglomerate immediately. And we have outliers, Shabaka's Black Experience, and shout out to him, Shabaka. Make sure y'all go and check my brother out. Some other folks coming to the table. That is the core group. There's some outliers. So y'all see that new logo. Shout out to the Black Rappers. Also, video for y'all who see the video. Shout out to United Front, my brother Mahdi, aka Omawali Mayasa, bringing the United Front for giving that intro song for our 1,000 episode show. Peace, Kinky Coca. So we got a lot of shows today. A lot of shows. Real busy. Ain't busy enough to take a moment and highlight to people like, what did y'all think, thus far about the platform, the visual platform versus the audio platform, and what are some of the shows or guests or interviews, what have you, thus far here since we've been on YouTube that y'all like. Just trying to get some feedback from the family. So, take a moment, highlight your brother, let me know what's going on, see how you feeling, and all of that. Let me know what's been going on. So, if you got questions, you got comments, or whatever, just let me know. Let me read from this book, Inyasa Sim, The Calendar of Revolutionary Daily Thoughts by Jinga, Living Ancestor, Dr. Mwali Kevin Rudy. Get this and all of his other books and works from www.occupanthouse.com. That, so let's read that. Funding source for the African Senate School and African Senate Program, Occupant Institute. Here. Each generation assumed the responsibility of securing their manhood, their womanhood, the definitions of their being on earth, that in the final analysis, nationhood. That is a quote from our Baba, Safo warrior ancestor, Dr. John Clark. Read it one more time. Each generation must assume the responsibility of securing their manhood, their womanhood, the definition of their being on earth, that in the final analysis is nationhood. And that's from Baba warrior Safo, Dr. John Henry Clark. Peace be upon him. Peace be upon all of our Safos, our warrior ancestors. Let's get into Baba's explanation. And Bay, peace and black power to you. I see you. Yeah. Freedom, self-determining, dynamic power is a permanent responsibility. It requires constant care and attention. It must be guarded for the entirety of its existence. This fact is what makes our quest to ensure liberation endless. It will never stop except we stop. And if we stop, our liberation will be lost, possibly forever. There is nothing in the universe which says a people who become willfully enslaved cannot remain so until they are genocidally removed from existence. And one generation cannot guarantee its progeny its liberation. It can provide the wisdom and the means to gain or sustain liberation. but it cannot force a generation to want to be free through its own volition. An adult cannot be made to stand by his or her parent. This original woman, affirmation, I assume responsibility for our freedom. Affirmation, I assume responsibility for our freedom. Affirmation, I assume responsibility for our freedom. So if you look at this affirmation, if you look at this quote from Dr. John Henry Clark, you look at Barbara's explanation. Today's the 24th, which would be wisdom, culture, all being born to equality. And equality is that they're equal in all things. So we look in the mirror as we say this affirmation, this wisdom, wise words and actions, and culture is your life, culture, free through this culture, and it wants equality. Equality allows you to equal in all things. The wisdom culture reading supreme alphabet is wisdom. And again, wisdom is wise words and actions. So we're looking at today's situation with the mandate from our warrior ancestor, Robert John Henry Clark. The responsibility for liberation rests on each generation. Each generation must assume the responsibility of securing their manhood. Are we securing our manhood? How are we securing our manhood? Then womanhood. Are we securing our womanhood? How is womanhood secure? The definition of their being on earth is in that final analysis, which is called nationhood. How do nations come together? Through families. If we see this onslaught and attack, it's not just genocidal through destructive means or physical assassinations, it's emotional, it's psychological, it's psychospiritual. This assault that is happening on the African mind, on the African value system, on the African family, the violation of the sanctity of the African family, and the obscure look of the African future. Whose responsibility is it to secure it? Ours. Our men and our women to make way for our children. And it then becomes our children's responsibility through our laudable efforts of training, teaching, leading, coaching, mentoring, and guiding them on this path towards liberation for them to continue in our physical absence. In our physical absence, when we transition from the material view and assume our post on the other side, ancestrally, we continue to guide them, we continue to motivate them, we continue to mold them, we continue to protect them, we continue to fortify them. This is nationhood. Nationhood exists with the creative force, the source, the connection to the forces of nature, the through line through our ancestors, our elders, our peer group, and our youth, and our ancestors in turn that have yet to make the transition into or the incarnation into the physical realm. This is nationhood. This is nationhood. So our duties and responsibilities to secure manhood. You have to go through that developmental process of arriving at manhood. It takes guidance, it takes a rites of passage, it takes discipline, it takes sacrifice, it takes training, it takes knowledge, it takes critical thinking skills, it takes a gambit in order to arrive at manhood. It takes a gambit in order to arrive at womanhood. Age does not make you a man or a woman. In your enemy society, indiscriminate to how old you are, they have terms in legalese that call you, and we adopt minor or minority. That's indiscriminate to your age. It's your classification. It's your status in the dominant society. So likewise, it's an amalgamation from the culture. If this brother or the sister failed going through the rites of passage program, they were never inducted into manhood or womanhood, no matter what their age is. So if you haven't gone through that rites of passage, if you have not gone through the rites of passage in the society, indiscriminate to your age, this is where our elders used to get that term, at your age, not your shoe size, from. Because you could physically grow and still be in a state of a European toddler. Find many of us reasoning like European toddlers, throwing temper tantrums and fits of rage, with your inability to control your emotions, your inability to express yourself in a copious manner, with your inability to have empathy, sympathy, patience with your family, like a misfit, like a degenerate. When you come from a degenerative state of being after this European influence, you see the way your enemy reasons. You see the way your enemy goes about their business. You come from a people who had discipline, who was slow to anger, who contemplated things before they spoke, who knew how to go seek counsel before making a decision. These are all parts of manhood and womanhood in the African society. You would go seek counsel from their elders. You would take an admonishment from your ancestors. You would go and seek counsel before you made a decision. And I know that you hard pressed in your mind today, finding ourselves in the conditions that we find ourselves in, to think that such a society exists. They call them fairy tales. They call this, the story of utopia and things like that. You would see things after the influence and the invasion of outsiders into the culture. I'll leave it. The definition of their being on earth. This is the definition of you being a man or you being a woman, securing that space on the planet, having families, raising children. That's your definition. That is your definition on earth. And this is the only pathway into nationhood, familyhood. Our religion as African people, our family. Our religion as African people are our ancestors, our ancestral way of living. We're honoring and venerating other ancestors, honoring and venerating other people's way of life. And this is why they're fortified. And this is why we adopt the mentality as if they are unstoppable. Because we venerate them, we give them the credence and the power. We pass around their ancestors. In the veneration practice, we kill for their ancestors, we rob for their ancestors, we steal for their ancestors, send our children to be educated about their ancestors. They venerate them. They venerate them through their innocence. And we allow them to through our ignorance. So let's look again. Freedom, a self-determining dynamic power. It is permanent responsibility. It says permanent. It says permanent. It doesn't say until you get it. We obtain liberation and we go back to sleep. We look at pure pain and bloodshed associated with liberation, and then we go back into occupation. We go from occupation to liberation back into occupation. Sappho, warrior ancestor, Harriet Tubman told those people on the Underground Railroad, told our ancestors that it was freedom and death. And she's reported as saying, I never ran my train off track and I never lost the passenger. Freedom, a self-determining, self-determined, dynamic power. Look at what Baba is saying about freedom. It's not individuals. I mean, individual and self is not the same. Self understands the duty to the collective being of self. This is where the dynamic power derives from our unity. Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said our unity is more important, more strongly, more stronger than an atomic bomb. Permanent responsibility. It's not something that you start off with and then you end off and then you go back into captivity. It requires constant care and attention. Look at our relationship to this dynamic power, our uh, care and consideration to this dynamic power that we're looking to attain our freedom. Right now, it is not within the grasp of us, yet it remains ever in the forefront of our mind as a vision. So we must be dutiful. We must remain faithful. We must remain diligent. We must remain committed to our self-determining freedom, dynamic power, permanent responsibility. So it doesn't stop in our generation or the next generation or the next generation or the next generation. Each generation must assume the responsibility for securing their manhood, their womanhood. I can't say this enough. Each generation, each generation. This is continuity. This is connectivity. This is where we find ourselves. We're crawling through the muck and the mire, and we're organizing, and we're putting things together, and we're putting cultural safeguards in place. Then we are bringing in our youth, and we're teaching them, and we're bringing in our future generations and teaching them and keeping them on this path towards freedom so that they may teach their children, and they might teach their children. So our ancestral lineage continues, so that our bloodline continues. But our bloodline and our ancestral lineage does not continue in calamity, does not continue in trauma, does not continue to pass down trauma, death, disease epigenetically. That will continue to be better with each generation. So each generation does not have to carry something so burdensome that they put it down and that they forget it. They have their own assignments. They have their own mission. And it's our job to guide them through their mission. So they become rightly guided and they can guide their children through their mission. You can only give guidance to someone correctly if you were rightly guided. So we find ourselves in this position, devoid of some of the guidance, not all of the guidance, devoid of some of the guidance. We have guidance, we have counsel, we have elders, we have ancestors, we have all of the answers that we see. We don't have to go anyplace else outside of our existence, outside of our lineage, in order to find our answer, outside of our race, outside of our nation, outside of our people. In the words of my brother PFK Boom, we all got, we all need. Salute to 300 gangsters. And if we stop, look at this. If we stop, our liberation will be lost, possibly forever. So our duty is to not allow ourselves to push ourselves to exhaustion. We can no longer continue, possibly forever. Now look at this. Look at this next line. There's nothing in the universe which says that people who become willfully enslaved cannot remain so until they are genocidally removed. There's no universal principle that says, oh, after a certain amount of time, you'll be liberated. After a certain amount of time, your loved ones will no longer be slaughtered. After a certain amount of time, your loved ones will no longer be miseducated. After a certain amount of time, your loved ones will no longer be subject experiments for the continued support and fortification of our enemy's system, our enemy's family system. That our family system will no longer, after a certain amount of time, be cannon fodder for the family system that exists from this European and all of these advocates. One generation cannot guarantee its progeny its liberation. Can't guarantee. If you look at the Haitian Revolution, if you look at what our ancestors went through here and in the Haitian Revolution simultaneously, what our ancestors went through to liberate Africa. One generation cannot guarantee its progeny its liberation. How do you get free and stop fighting? How do you go from occupation and annihilation to liberation back into annihilation and occupation? You get liberated and you're not dutiful. You don't put in the constant care and attention. You allow your enemies to swoop back in and encircle you as if, and you live as if nothing ever happened. It can provide the wisdom and means to gain or sustain liberation. But it cannot force a generation to want to be free to its own volition. It can give you all of the skills, all of the talent. It can present you with all of the wisdoms of the ancients. But what it cannot do is propel you to move. We have to move. We have all of the scholarly information. We have all of the blueprints necessary. We have all the means, motives, and opportunities. However, if we do not move, it means nothing. So it says it cannot force a generation to want to be free through its own volition. It can't be a forced situation. Something that we have to come to realize, recognize, and an adult cannot be made to stand by his or her parent. So again, we're talking about our connection to secure manhood and womanhood. On the way to nationhood, it says an adult cannot be made to stand by his or her parent. We find folk in our society, in our nation, saying things like, we're not our ancestors. Saying things like, that's them. That's not me. So this adulting that we're doing, this adultery that we're committing against our ancestral lineage. It's our first marriage. That's our first marriage. This adultery that we're committing by our inaction and not seeking retribution on whatever level that it is. We won't even build families in retribution. We won't even raise children in retribution. We won't even be dutiful to your ancestral lineage. We won't even venerate them for retribution. We won't even clean ourselves up for retribution. We won't even clean up the blood. We won't even right the wrongs of those who existed in this lineage and line before us for retribution. So this adulterous state that we exist in, that is contrary to our nature, that is contrary to our existence, is very treacherous, very treason. And we leave a bigger burden for our future generations who have to find this out of the mud instead of being guided rightly to continue their mission, and to endow them with all of the skills, the strength, the knowledge base, spiritual protection, all of the things that a culture affords a representative or a warrior for their people. You can no longer be the adult that cannot be made to stand by his or her parents. You owe it to your parents, and you owe it to your parents' parents. This is a duty and responsibility that we have to our nation. So again, with this affirmation, I assume responsibility for our freedom. Can you go to the mirror and look at yourself and say, I am doing what's necessary. I assume this responsibility. This responsibility cannot be laid on anybody else's shoulders other than us. I assume responsibility for our freedom. This is equality. This is how you deal equal in all things. This is wisdom. This is how you apply what you know in your words and in your ways and actions. Where is the evidence? Where is the proof of us assuming responsibility for our freedom? Stop right there. Let y'all see this merchandise. And I'm gonna be live in a few minutes with our warrior sister, Sister Aura. Be live with her in a few minutes. Let y'all see. These hoodies are 2X. 2X. $40. Shipping out today. If you want them, get them. Priority shipping. Have them in 2 days. So you should have them by Monday, Tuesday at the latest. So I'll make sure if you're interested. I see the Cash App. Hit the Cash App and get this to you in the mail. A couple of days. Monday, Tuesday by the latest. So like I said, we'll be on 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Going down all day today. All right. So thank you for everybody who tuned in. Kinky Coca, peace to you. Let me see. Figured out something from Facebook. So if y'all are commenting from Facebook, you have to allow StreamYard to see your name, so I know who it is. So I can shout y'all out. Shout out to Brandon Bay. Shout out to Radical. Shout out to Original Woman. Always love and support. Always showing love and support. Whoever this is from Facebook, salute to you. So peace, love, black power. Catch us here in a few minutes. Be back live.